Right now, as you watch this, you believe you are in control. You believe you are making choices. You're not. Neuroscientists have proven that up to 95% of your brain's activity runs entirely below the surface of your awareness. And your conscious mind is just along for the ride, like a passenger who thinks they're driving. But here's what almost no one will tell you. Researchers have identified a precise neurological window, one that opens every single day, when your subconscious becomes completely open to reprogramming. It exists every night. I will tell you exactly what it is and how to use it before this video ends. In the next few minutes, you are going to understand why you make the choices you make, why you keep repeating patterns you desperately want to break, and why the version of yourself you present to the world may be running on code written before you were 7 years old. This is subconscious mind power, the conscious illusion. In 1983, a neuroscientist named Benjamin Libet conducted one of the most unsettling experiments in the history of psychology. He asked participants to flex their wrists whenever they felt like it. A completely spontaneous, voluntary movement, simple enough, but he also wired them to brain scanning equipment. What he discovered shook the scientific community for decades. The brain initiated the movement 300 to 500 milliseconds before the participants were consciously aware of any intention to move. Think about what that means. You believed you decided to move, but your brain had already decided, and your conscious mind simply caught up afterward and took credit for it. Your sense of free will might be the brain's most sophisticated illusion. This was not a one-time finding. Replications across decades confirmed the pattern. In 2008, researchers at the Max Planck Institute extended Libet's work and pushed the prediction window to a full 10 seconds before conscious awareness. 10 seconds. Your brain had already committed. A decade of milliseconds before you thought you chose. So if you are not the one running the show, then who is? And what does that mean for every relationship you've formed? Every habit you can't break, every reaction you couldn't control? The answer goes deeper than you are ready for, but trust me, you need to hear all of it. Your autopilot mind. Stop and think about your morning. The alarm goes off. You reach for your phone before your eyes are fully open. You brush your teeth starting on the same side you always do. You make coffee the same way. You take the same route to work and barely remember the drive. You were not thinking about any of it, not really. And that is not a failure of attention. That is your brain being ruthlessly efficient. The basal ganglia, a primitive structure deep in the brain, is the engine of your automatic behavior. When a behavior is repeated enough, the prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain, actually withdraws from the process entirely. The basal ganglia takes over. What was once conscious effort becomes pure subconscious reflex. This is why you can drive a familiar route while your mind is completely elsewhere. Your subconscious handles the car. Your conscious mind is somewhere else entirely. Roughly 40 to 45% of your daily actions are habits, not decisions. According to research by Wendy Wood at Duke University, nearly half your life is running on autopilot. Now that you understand this pattern in yourself, hit like and subscribe to keep exploring the depths of your psyche with me. There is so much more to uncover, but here is the part that should disturb you. Most of those automated programs were written before you turned 7 years old, and you had absolutely no idea it was happening. Habit architecture. Now that we know nearly half your life runs on autopilot, you need to understand the architecture of that autopilot, because it is not random. It follows a precise, three-part loop that Charles Duhigg mapped in his landmark research on habit formation, and it operates identically in every human brain on the planet. The structure is deceptively simple. 1. Cue, a trigger that activates the automatic response. 2. Routine, the behavior the subconscious executes. 3. Reward, the neurological payoff that reinforces the loop. Here is what makes this framework both powerful and terrifying. The subconscious does not distinguish between a healthy habit and a destructive one. It only follows the loop. You reach for your phone the moment you feel bored. That is a cue. The scrolling is the routine. A brief dopamine release is the reward. Loop complete, repeat forever. You eat when you are stressed. You avoid conflict when you feel threatened. You seek validation when you feel unseen. None of these are conscious choices once the loop is established. As the great philosopher Aristotle once observed, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle understood this too, 400 years before neuroscience could prove it. Your identity, the person you believe yourself to be, is largely a collection of loops your subconscious runs on repeat. But who wrote those loops in the first place? What comes next in this story will disturb you more than you expect. Emotional hijacking. You have been in a conversation that was completely rational, until suddenly it was not. Something was said, maybe a specific tone of voice, a particular word, a look across the table, and in a fraction of a second, reason left the building entirely. You were no longer fully present in that conversation. You were flooded with an emotion that felt completely out of proportion to what had just happened. Daniel Goleman called this an amygdala hijack. The amygdala, your brain's ancient threat detection center, can override the prefrontal cortex, your rational mind, in milliseconds. It does not wait for you to think. It does not ask permission. It fires. But here is the subconscious layer most people miss entirely. The amygdala is not responding to what is actually in front of you. It is responding to an emotional memory, a stored pattern from your past that this moment merely resembles. Your emotional reactions are often memories dressed up as present experience. When your boss speaks to you in a specific tone and you suddenly feel a rush of childhood shame, that is not about your boss. That is a stored response from a 5-year-old being replayed through an adult body. Freud called this transference. Neuroscience calls it state-dependent memory retrieval. The name does not matter. What matters is this: most of what you feel today is a signal from yesterday, past disguised as present. And the next layer of this takes it somewhere even more personal, into who you choose to love. Attraction decoded. Let us talk about who you fall for, because the subconscious does not just run your habits and hijack your emotions. It also chooses your partners, and it chooses them for reasons that have nothing to do with conscious compatibility and everything to do with emotional familiarity. Freud identified something he called the repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to re-experience familiar emotional dynamics, even painful ones. You are not looking for someone who simply makes you happy. Your subconscious is looking for someone who feels like home, and home was established before you were old enough to evaluate it critically. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Jung's words become devastating when you trace the pattern in your own relationship history. The emotionally unavailable partner. Did they feel strangely familiar? The one who kept you guessing? Did that uncertainty feel almost exciting in a way you could not explain? Harville Hendrix's imago theory adds another dimension. We are unconsciously drawn to partners who carry both the positive and the negative traits of our primary caregivers. The goal, buried far beneath awareness, is to heal the wounds of childhood by replaying them in adult relationships, hoping for a different outcome. We don't choose partners randomly. We choose them subconsciously for a purpose. This is not pessimism, it is the map. And maps can lead you somewhere entirely new, once you know how to read them. But first, you need to understand how deeply your environment is shaping you right now, in real time. The priming effect. Here is a study that should make you genuinely uncomfortable. In the 1990s, social psychologist John Bargh ran an experiment at New York University. He asked students to unscramble sentences containing words associated with elderly people. Words like Florida, bingo, forgetful, wrinkled, retirement. The students had no idea what the experiment was truly measuring. Afterward, as they walked down the hallway to return their materials, researchers covertly timed them. The students who had been exposed to elderly associated words walked significantly more slowly than those who had not. They had been primed, subconsciously activated, by concepts of old age, and their physical behavior changed without their knowledge, without their consent, without any conscious intention whatsoever. Your environment is programming you. The images you see every day, the words you hear repeatedly, the people you surround yourself with, the content you consume for hours. All of it is priming your subconscious, setting the stage for behaviors and feelings and decisions you will later believe were entirely and freely your own. You are not the author of your thoughts. You are heavily shaped by their origin. This is why advertisers invest billions understanding subconscious behavior. They do not need to convince your rational mind. They prime your subconscious enough times, and you reach for their product and sincerely believe you chose it freely. Now forget everything I just described for a moment, because what comes next takes this concept somewhere far more intimate, into your own body. Body intelligence. Have you ever had a gut feeling that turned out to be completely right, before you had a single logical reason to believe it? Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio spent decades trying to explain exactly this phenomenon, and what he discovered revealed a form of intelligence operating entirely below your conscious awareness. Damasio studied patients with damage to the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, the region linking emotion to rational decision-making. These patients were, by every measurable standard, intelligent and fully functional, but their decision-making was catastrophic. They could not choose between two restaurants. They could not make basic life decisions without being completely paralyzed. What they had lost was what Damasio called the somatic marker system, the process by which the body stores emotional experiences as physical signals: a faster heartbeat, a tightened stomach, a sudden warmth or chill. your body runs a rapid, subconscious assessment of threat and reward before your mind can even form a coherent question. What you call intuition is actually accumulated subconscious pattern recognition stored throughout your entire nervous system. Your body remembers what your conscious mind has long forgotten. Every experience you have ever had left a physical trace. Your subconscious reads that trace every second, informing your decisions with data your conscious mind never sees and never fully understands. But the most disturbing discovery of all is still coming, the one that directly challenges your belief in your own rationality. The narrative trick. Here is where this becomes genuinely unsettling. Not only does your subconscious make up to 95% of your decisions, your conscious mind then invents a story to explain those decisions, and it believes its own story with complete conviction. Michael Gazzaniga's split-brain research revealed something that should unsettle every person who believes in their own rationality. When the two hemispheres of the brain were surgically separated, researchers could give the right hemisphere a command that the left hemisphere could not see. The person would perform the action, and then immediately, confidently, invent a plausible explanation for why they did it. We confabulate, we invent reasons, and we believe them completely. Gazzaniga called the narrative-creating module the interpreter, a structure in the left hemisphere that constructs a continuous, coherent story about who you are and why you do what you do, even when that story is pure, unconscious fabrication. The stories you tell about yourself are mostly post hoc rationalizations. Think about the last significant decision you made. Did you consciously choose and then compile your reasons? Or did your subconscious choose and then your interpreter handed you a list of justifications that felt completely, undeniably true? You are the narrator, not the author of your own life. And now comes the piece I promised at the very beginning of this video. The neurological window that actually gives you power over all of this, the one that changes everything. Rewire the code. At the threshold between wakefulness and sleep, that drifting, half-conscious state where thoughts dissolve into imagery, your brain waves slow from beta to alpha to theta. Scientists call this the hypnagogic state, and here is what makes it the most powerful window in your neurological day. Neuroplasticity. In this specific state, the critical faculty of the conscious mind, the filter that judges, doubts, and rejects incoming information, dramatically lowers its defenses. The subconscious becomes receptive in a way it almost never is during normal waking hours. This is not metaphor or speculation. Electroencephalography confirms it. The brain in this hypnagogic state closely resembles the brain of a young child. The very same neurological condition in which your original subconscious programming was installed. Every night you have a window to rewrite what was written before you had a choice. This is precisely why the emotional state and the dominant thoughts you carry into sleep hold disproportionate weight in your subconscious architecture. And this is why visualization combined with genuine emotional engagement, not mere mechanical repetition, is what actually shifts deep subconscious patterns over time. Emotion activates the amygdala, which signals importance to the subconscious. Repetition builds the neural pathway, but emotion is the key that unlocks the door each night. As researcher Joe Dispenza's work confirmed, the quantum field responds not to what we want, it responds to who we are being. The change is not intellectual, it is experiential. You do not think your way to a new subconscious. You feel your way there, one night at a time. So let me ask you directly, has your subconscious been running your life on autopilot, or are you ready to take the wheel? Comment autopilot if you recognize these patterns in yourself, or awake if you are ready to start reprogramming. The awakened mind. The goal was never to eliminate your subconscious. It is far too essential. Without it, you could not drive, could not speak, could not maintain your heartbeat without focused effort. The goal is something more nuanced, to become the conscious observer of your own automatic programming, what psychologists call metacognition. And it begins not with massive transformation, but with a single, deliberate moment of noticing. You feel a sudden irritation that seems disproportionate to what just happened. Instead of reacting, you pause and you ask, whose voice is this? Whose fear is this? Is this response about right now, or is it a stored memory from the past wearing the clothes of the present? Awareness is the space between the trigger and your reaction. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust and built an entire philosophy from within its darkness, understood this deeply. As he wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. That space, that deliberate pause, is where consciousness begins to reclaim territory from the subconscious. And with each repetition of that pause, the neural pathway of awareness grows stronger. Slowly and steadily, the automatic becomes a choice. Awareness is the beginning. You will never control 100% of your mind, but you can expand the 5% that is conscious. You can curate your environment deliberately. You can use the hypnagogic window each night. You can build new loops with intention rather than accident. The most powerful thing you can do is learn to observe yourself without judgment. If you made it this far and something in this video shifted something in you, prove it. Comment subconscious scene below. Because awareness is the very first act of reprogramming. Welcome to the Psyche project. 95%, that number is not here to make you feel powerless. It is here to finally wake you up. Because the person who does not know their subconscious is running them is infinitely more controlled than the person who does. Knowledge is the beginning. Your habits were written before you could write. Your emotional reactions are memories dressed as present experience. Your attractions follow blueprints drawn in childhood. Your gut feelings are intelligence you cannot yet articulate. And the stories you tell about your choices are often invented after the subconscious has already decided. But none of that is destiny. None of it is permanent. It is simply the program as it was installed, before you had the awareness to choose otherwise. And programs, unlike people, can be deliberately rewritten. Use the hypnagogic window tonight. Notice the gap between your triggers and your reactions tomorrow. Curate your environment with intention. Build new loops consciously, not by default. The 95% will never fully surrender to awareness, nor should it. But the 5% you can expand, that is everything. That is the difference between a life that happens to you and a life you begin to author. If this changed how you see yourself today, comment subconscious scene. And if you know someone living completely on autopilot who needs to hear this, send them this video. It might be the most important thing they watch this year. Welcome to the Psyche project. Understanding yourself is the work of a lifetime. See you in the next video.